Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. I'm your host, Jeff Hootselle. I'm the Chief Cloud Officer with AuditMax. Hey, if you guys have watched the show before, you know Tech Talk is a conversation show. We talk to people doing really interesting and fascinating things in the world of technology from all over the country. Some really great guests that join us. We've got a fantastic guest today we're really excited about. From Virginia Tech, we've got Randy Marchany. He is the Chief Information Security Officer of Virginia Tech. He also runs our IT Security Lab. Randy was the co-author of the original SANS Top 10 Internet Threats. He's been a member of the White House Partnership for Critical Infrastructure Security. And kind of the list just goes on and on with some of his expertise. So we're happy to have him join us today. So Randy, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me.
Randy, how are things in Blacksburg today? It's nice. It's the fall. Things starting to cool down a little bit.
It's a nice fall day. The temperature, we had a little bit of a cold spell. Temperatures in the low 60s, so it's a typical November day for us. Everybody's gearing up for Thanksgiving break. And, you know, in today's COVID world, all the dorm students will be heading home right before Thanksgiving, and they won't be back on campus until the beginning of spring semester, the end of July. But they'll be taking all their classes between Thanksgiving. We have 2 weeks of the semester left, and they'll be taking Thanksgiving, after Thanksgiving, the 2 weeks of classes. All that will be online.
Yeah, it's certainly different at times. I mean, you guys have adapted pretty well there at Tech and are doing your best to keep everybody safe. I know we're excited to have you on the show today. I mean, I think the world of cybersecurity right now is really getting interesting. I mean, I saw an article published this morning, or maybe it was last night, talking about a lot of the rise in attacks, especially ransomware in the healthcare space in particular, is what the one article I read about, just how much that's ramped up and how IT professionals are really trying to deal with these new threats. Any perspectives from your side on just what we're seeing now as a result of the pandemic and this spike in ransomware attacks?
Yeah, well, you know, first off, ransomware attacks they're not new. The first ransomware attack was back in 1989. When somebody decided to encrypt a PC. And in 2009, in the state of Virginia, the state prescription monitoring database was hit with a ransomware attack. And again, in 2009, the attackers, you know, they demanded $10 million in ransom. The state, of course, refused to pay it. They restored from backups. Service obviously was disrupted for a while. But, the reason why they're so popular now is simply because of cryptocurrency. In 2009, $10 million was small unmarked bills in big boxes. And you know that they were going to watch, where the cash was. But with cryptocurrency, that's made the payment, harder to trace and track. That's why it's become, so popular now. And especially now in the COVID world, the healthcare side is being hit a lot. The old Willie Sutton thing, you go where the money is. They're under high pressure, especially in a high-risk state that's dealing with, COVID cases. There's a lot of stress going on, and they figure, hey, the pickings are easy. Password security for medical personnel, not going to be very high. They need to log in quickly. They're not going to, pull out a card, do a two-factor thing, and hope for that because they've got all this other medical equipment on them. So, yeah, they're a prime target. And in most cases, some hospital systems will pay. And the thing is that once you pay, then basically you're put on a list. That other ransomware attackers can look at and go, well, they paid once, they'll pay again. That type of deal. So, it is kind of a weird spiral.
I'm curious. So as you talk to your peers, and folks are trying to put their strategies together and their plans to protect their infrastructure and their key data, their sensitive data, what's kind of your approach? I mean, just the way the internet is built now and how we function with cloud servers, and we're looking at containers and public cloud and all these different apps. And you've got mobile devices, and just everything's changed so rapidly in the pace of technology and how our infrastructure is built and where that data lives. What's your approach on that? As far as if you're talking and giving guidance to fellow security officers on how to protect their data, where would you start?
So, ironically, this is probably one area where the universities, the edu sectors, has more experience than corporate world. For us, BYOD, bring your own device, that's nothing new. We've been doing BYOD since 1984, where when we first started requiring students to own their own computer. And so this concept of mobile, even though it wasn't very mobile back then, but certainly now, it's not a new thing for us. And at Virginia Tech, when we first connected to the internet in the early 80s, we just made an assumption that, well, we're a university. It's our business model to be open. People can come and visit our library. We're a state institution, a public institution, so anybody in the world can come and, to our library. So we said, we just assumed that the network was hostile. And because, pen testing in an open network, whoopee, I got in. Well, yeah, because we invited you in. We made it easy for you to get into our network. So the second principle was that we just assumed that hackers were already inside our network, which led to the third principle which was we go looking for them. We look for outbound traffic, and that's the big difference. I think that a lot of the universities, were doing that corporate wasn't. Corporate was you would build your big giant, firewalls, and you would spend all this time keeping the bad guys out. When really it's when the data leaves, that's the big, that's when you have a data breach, is when your data leaves. And so this mobility factor where students, were bringing in their own computers and now their own laptops and now smartphones, the transition, when we went to work from home wasn't as severe as it is in corporate. And nowadays, the buzzword for what I just described is zero trust. We didn't know that at the time, but that was always our model. So what it forced us to do was, I used to say that the border was not the firewall in a corporate network. It was the actual device. It was your laptop or your desktop. And now it's even more refined, where the border now has become your sensitive data and your identity, your credentials that you use to log in to access that data. An example that the universities have is we have a service, it's a federated service called EduRoam. So I could go down to Jackson State or University of Florida or Florida State, visit with you guys, and if I'm on their campus, I can log into their network using my Virginia Tech credentials. And if anybody from any of those universities came up to visit us here at Virginia Tech, they could connect to our network as a guest and with their local university credentials. So that mobility is something that a lot of corporate and government entities are struggling with, because it's brand new for them.
So what's the key there? Is it really just knowing where that sensitive data lives, and then are you just watching for abnormal patterns inside the network? Is that kind of the key?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is finding, and what do we mean by sensitive data? For our classification of sensitive data is any data that's covered by law or regulation. That's a wide, these days, that's a huge, umbrella. But basically, there's 6 basic elements. It's your social security number, your driver's license number, passport number, bank or a credit card number, or bank or debit card number. So those 6 elements are our core sensitive data. And you can use commercial tools or freeware tools. We wrote a freeware tool called Find SSN, which looks for credit card numbers and social security numbers. Or commercial products like, it used to be called Identity Finder, now it's called Spirion. You can use those, but you need to run those to find where the data is. What we discovered in that, and it's an ongoing challenge for us. What we discovered was people are what I call digital pack rats. I got a I got a Windows 95 laptop in the late 90s, and then when I got moved to NT, I threw everything into a folder called it Windows 95, and then copied that folder to the NT box. And then when I got my Windows 2000 box, I did the same thing. Now I got Windows 10, and I got a folder there that's called Windows 8, and it had files in it from 20 years ago. So, and that's where we're finding a lot of the sensitive data. So number one, you have to find it, and you have to use those type of tools to look for it. And then number two, you got to decide, do I still need this for my job? And if the answer is no, delete it. If the answer is yes, then you have to encrypt it. And number three then is find your critical business processes. These are the like your bursar's office, your controller's office, your payroll, the business processes that handle cash, that handle your finances. Profile where the outbound traffic goes. Okay, for instance, like in most bursar's office around the world, they go to 20 or 25 financial clearinghouse sites to do their financial transactions. So you profile that type of traffic. A hacker breaks into our network and gets access to a machine. That the score is hacker 1, Randy 0. But if I can block that command and control communication back to the hacker site, then it's Randy 1, hacker 1, and tie goes to the defender. In the 30 years I've been doing cybersecurity stuff and looking at attack patterns, both with the SANS Institute and the feds and the state and everybody else, and locally what we see here at Virginia Tech. In my mind, hackers really have three goals when you boil it down to their root goals. The first goal is they want to get your sensitive data, and they want to steal it, and they want to disclose it. The second one is they want to destroy your sensitive data. And then the third goal is that they want to use your machines to attack other sites to steal their sensitive data or destroy it. So all the attacks that we've seen in the past 30 years, if you boil it down, it's one of those three things. Ransomware is in the encryption, destruction category. So one of those things then is, good backups. I mean, you have to have really good backups, most recent backup, and it's a risk proposition, right? I would rather lose a day's worth of work than a year's worth of work. And so having a good, consistent backup scheme is something that we strongly advise.
No, that's great. Those are great tips, Randy. I mean, it's certainly something we're having to deal with now. I know you guys are pushing for your students to all get some literacy when it comes to the cybersecurity world, no matter what their major is, if they're in IT or English or anything else. I think it's a valuable skill. I know we're getting a little short on time, but I can't let you go without asking about something in your background of your office there. So a lot of people don't know, besides your career in the cybersecurity world, you also are a musician, correct?
That's right. Yeah, I used to play in a band called No Strings Attached, and we were together, 38 years. We put out 8 albums and won some awards for those. NPR played some of our stuff as background music in the news show, All Things Considered. The band and I wrote the original theme song for one of the NPR programs called World Cafe. They're based out of WXPN in Philadelphia. For the first eight years of the show, that was the theme song that they used was from us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yes, we're gonna have you on the show again. We're gonna need to refresh our theme song for Tech Talk here. I'm gonna have to talk to you on the side, get a little side hustle outside of this Virginia Tech business here. So
it was great. It was great cross training though, because I really got to hone my public speaking skills with the band, which really helped me in my job. So cross training is a good thing.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, you're obviously a fantastic communicator and have a lot of good insights. It's a pleasure having you on. I feel like we do a 6-part series with you and cover all the questions we have here. So we'd love to have you back again sometime. But Randy, thanks so much for joining the show today. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I hope you have a good time down there with the weather in Florida.
I appreciate it. Hey, and thank you guys for joining us again for another Tech Talk. If you want to see more episodes like this, you can visit auditmax.com and see our whole library of interviews. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.